Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is Saturday, March 9th, 2019. It is Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld. Welcome, Smaulgld mug stackers, game changers. Tonight we're going to talk about how to get silver at spot price. And this isn't some kind of special offer or something that happens once in a while. This is a type of silver that you can get almost freely. When I say freely, I don't mean you get it for free. I mean, most of the time you can get this silver at or very, very close to the spot price of silver, and yet it's not sold very often. And it's not because it's radioactive. It didn't come from some radioactive pile. It's perfectly good silver. It's a good piece of silver, but very few people buy it. So we are going to take a look at that. And today we're going to skip the news of the day. We'll cover all the news tomorrow. We'll do a catch-up on the news. There's not much going on, obviously, in the gold and silver markets at the moment on Saturday. That's why we like to do Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld, because we don't really get tied up in the news or the daily price movements of gold and silver. We will take a quick look at the crypto prices, and then we'll move into how to get silver at the spot price. So right now, Bitcoin's at $39.09, it's up 2%. Ethereum $136, up 3%. Litecoin 57.25, up almost 4%, and Bcash at 132, up almost 5%. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at how to get silver for close to spot price. So let's take a look at a couple of introductory charts and graphs, and it'll all start to make sense as we go through it together here. All right. Now, silver has been mined for millennial and millennial, 5,000 years perhaps. One of the first metals discovered by mankind, and you can see it has been on a steady increase despite a lot of the we're running out of silver, the mines they can't operate. They're still producing more silver than ever before. And in fact, even since 2000, they've gone up a big deal. Just in the last 30, 40 years, it's pretty much doubled the amount of silver production. Now, of course, the silver demand has gone up, but the silver demand over time has been strange, because initially, if you look in the 1840s, 60s, 1900s, 1920, all the way to 1964, you have countries, every major country issuing silver currency and using hundreds of millions of ounces to do so. Canadian silver, U.S. silver, Chinese silver coins, Swiss silver coins, French silver coins, Italian silver coins, British silver coins, Australian silver coins, Mexican silver coins, Indian silver coins. And so there was a great demand for silver, primarily for silver coins. There was no photography in the 1800s, early 1800s. There certainly weren't electronics. There weren't solar panels. So the main use of silver was to make coinage. And there was a silverware for the richer people had silverware, but essentially silver was useful for coinage. And then as the modern era approached, silver became a widely desired industrial metal, electronics, later on, solar panels. So, and then in the use in munitions, silver was useful, electrical devices, then they became medical uses for silver on a larger scale. They always knew that silver was antibacterial, antimicrobial. There's the old, not a wives' tale, but the old tale where the wife would put a silver dollar, a large silver dollar, in the milk, and it would keep it fresher longer, because the silver coin would interact with the microorganisms in there and kill them. So your milk didn't go sour as fast if you had a silver dollar in there. So you can see that global silver production has gone higher, but because silver is a versatile metal, there's been increasing uses for it. And so the demand, when we lost the demand essentially for photography, that was replaced by growing electronics and then growing solar. So it's almost like it replaced that one need that went away. And in a sense, photography somewhat replaced, and mirrors replaced the need or the demand for silver coins. And then investment silver came along in the late 1980s, and people also started to buy silver as an investment metal, although it reached its peak in 2015. So there's been an increasing demand for silver, even though it's not always for the same thing. Now, a while back, we had done a show, and it was called Silver Doesn't Make the Cut as a Strategic Metal. And on that list, silver wasn't on there, gold wasn't on there, but that makes sense. Gold is not strategic. Gold is a monetary metal, it's a jewelry. Those are the main demand drivers of gold. Now, gold does have important uses in places like NASA, because as we discussed, it's very reflective. You can use it in electronics, in space. It doesn't tarnish. You can use it as a lubricant. It's not going to dissolve. You could get very thin. You could put it between the joints of the mechanisms. But even though that's strategic and it's useful, that doesn't take that much gold. And the United States does mine about 200 tons of gold a year. So if there was an issue with gold, the United States easily could find it. So it didn't make the list. And then supposedly there's gold in various vaults around the United States. So gold is not on the list. But silver wasn't on the list either, and that was strange. But I guess the United States does produce about 35, 40 million ounces of silver. And I guess they figure that's enough for the current uses. And so it didn't make the list either. Nor did copper. Copper, we know, is very useful. Copper is as useful as silver in many respects in the production of electronics, pipes, and so on. Nickel is also a very, very useful metal. Didn't make the list either. Now, the thing about copper and nickel, though, while the United States does have respectable silver mining production, and of course it has Mexico to the south, the number one producer of silver, and Canada to the north, which produces about the same amount of silver as the U.S. So silver, you can see why it doesn't make a list of essential metals. Not because it's not essential, it's because the United States doesn't have to worry about having to get it from one country. If it's only in one country, then you're kind of hosed. If that country doesn't like you, you're forced to go in and invade it to get the metals that you want. Now, the platinum group metals did make the list, and that makes sense because there's only platinum in South Africa and Russia in any significant amounts, and they consider platinum a essential metal, strategic metal for the catalytic purposes. Same with palladium, so you can understand that. So copper doesn't make it, nickel doesn't make it, but the U.S. does have some copper mining, but the U.S. has no nickel mining, which is interesting. Nickel is not on the list. Now, this is odd because nickel is very important in the production of munitions. And the countries that produce nickel are Indonesia, is a top country, Philippines, Canada, New Caledonia, Australia, Russia, Brazil, China, Guatemala, and Cuba. I don't know how nickel didn't make it, other than perhaps nickel is so... nickel is not rare, it's just hard to get at. But nickel didn't make the list. So nickel didn't make the list, copper didn't make the list, silver didn't make the list, gold didn't make the list, and there's explanations for all of them. But one element did make it, called manganese. That's strange. That is one that made and it's used in steel making. Now, manganese is not very expensive. So, for example, manganese costs about $2,000 a ton, and copper and nickel cost anywhere between 2 and 3 times that amount. So it's not a expensive metal, but it is considered a strategic metal. It's used in alloys, and I guess the United States, they don't mine it either. So that's probably one of the reasons that it is a strategic metal. Now, what does this all have to do with how to get silver at spot? I think I'm just rambling and showing off general knowledge of base metals and silver. No, but I will show you a couple of charts. You might have seen these before. The different prices of gold, silver. I show this for copper and nickel. Those are per ton prices. So manganese is right now at about $2,000 a ton. Copper is about $5,700 a ton, and nickel about $8,900 a ton. So it's clearly a cheaper metal. It's only been as high as $5,500, and you can see nickel has been as high as 17,000, and copper's also been up in the 6,000 or 7,000. So manganese is a very strange one to be on the list, but we're going to get to that in a second. Now, when I was a youngster, a child, my grandmother had collected, her sons had gone to World War II, and so she was a stay-at-home mom, but her husband had died, so she had to support the family, and then the boys went to war and left her alone. And she went to work, she was a seamstress, she saved her money, and she used to like to save the coins. And I remember when I was a boy, she gave me some of them. She gave me a lot of the coins she had saved during World War II. She saved all of them. Any change she got, she saved. So she was always saying, gotta save, gotta save. And so she had a bunch of half dollars and dimes, quarters, and nickels and pennies from 1942, 43, 44, during a period of time when her boys were at war. And she still had a lot of them left when I was a kid. And she gave me a few of the nickels, some of the half dollars. And the half dollars were the Liberty walking. I'd never seen them before. Very interesting looking. Quarters didn't interest me. They looked just like the quarters. Same with the nickels. They looked just like nickels. But the half dollars were different because they had a different design. I grew up, they were Kennedy half dollars, and before that they were Franklin half dollars, and before that, during the war, they were those Liberty walking half dollars. But as I mentioned, the quarters and the dimes and the nickels and the pennies, they were the same design. Lincoln penny, Jefferson nickel, Roosevelt. No, they weren't Roosevelt. She actually had, no, I'm sorry, she did have those little Mercury head dimes, as I recall. Those are the two interesting things to me, were the Mercury dimes and the Liberty walking, because they were different designs I had never seen before as a child. That was interesting because they looked like different money from a period of time long, long ago. And the nickels, I never really realized until a little later that the wartime nickels were not like the other nickels. So here's a regular nickel. I'm just looking at nickels there. And that's a 1991 nickel. And it is made of nickel and copper. That's why they call it a nickel. And it's got nickel and copper in it. And it's about, it's actually 75% copper and 25% nickel. Now that coin is worth more than a nickel, though. If you go to Coinflation, you'll see that based on the price of copper and the price of nickel, it's worth about, it's almost worth 5 cents just in metallic value because of the, and at times it's worth more than that when the price of nickel and copper go higher. I remember at one point a few years ago, a nickel was worth 12 cents. And they were talking about trying to stop making them because they were expensive to make. I mean, you're talking about the mint losing millions of dollars a year in a country that has a $20 trillion deficit. It's probably not worth even worrying about. But there were, I had covered this a few years ago, there were moves that were trying to either eliminate the penny or change the composition of the penny and the nickel. And what they found was the changing, if they want to keep the penny and the nickel, changing the composition isn't even worthwhile, even though it may cost less, because they wear out faster. They're not good in vending machines, and the vending machine lobby forced them not to do it. So we still have, if you think about it, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars. We still have change, or a lot of countries have eliminated change. The Canadians have eliminated the penny. I think in Sweden they've eliminated things up to 5 or 10 cents worth. They just round everything up. It's a sign of inflation. Anyway, back to the story with the nickels during the war. The interesting thing is that I found out later that those nickels had in them silver. And they looked a little different than the nickels I was used to. I'll show you one right here. But I just thought it was like beat up, you know, just like the dimes and the half dollars were. I just thought that, oh yeah, well, it's an old coin, so it looks different. But actually there's a reason it looks different. It's because that nickel actually has no nickel in it at all. Now this, I always knew when you looked at the dimes, that the dimes, they look different than the clad dimes. Even though this was a mercury dime, the silver does look different on a coin than the clad coins. You can kind of tell it, at least especially on the older versions. But back to the nickel, I didn't realize that the nickel had silver in it. I don't know if my grandmother even I don't think she told me there was silver in any of the coins. I don't think she knew or cared. She just knew that she had saved them during that time period. And once I found out there was silver in them, I was interested as a child, and I found out, and I did the research that you do when you have those books, the Whitman books, and it mentioned that there was 35% silver in the nickel, 56% copper, I think, and 9% manganese. See, I told you we'd get back to manganese. Now that's weird. I said to myself, I knew at the time silver was a precious metal, it was worth something. Why would they make nickels out of silver? Well, the reason they made the nickels out of silver and copper and manganese, I guess because it pulls the metals together as an alloy, was because of World War II. They needed the nickel to make munitions. So they had silver, and they just minted up a bunch of these nickels out of silver, copper, and manganese. And then I found out later they put the P on them to show the mint mark so that they would be able to tell at the end of the war which of these were war nickels, so they could just take them back and melt them down. And then back by 1946, after the war was over, they started making nickels on the 75% copper, 25% nickel again. Now you would think, well, 35% silver, that's a decent amount of silver in a coin, and maybe you might want to get some of those. Now, I had remembered this story that I just told you, and I was telling my wife about it. You know, people who don't pay attention to coins don't really care when you tell them stuff. It goes in one ear, out the other. And I said, I'm going to go out. It was on a Saturday. I'm going to go out and get a roll of nickels and show you what I'm talking about. Because I had lost the nickel that I had, the couple of nickels that my grandmother had given me by that point. Now, this is a strange story because I'm showing you here a nickel that was on the ground, maybe 20 yards from my front door. Just laying there. And I said, oh, there's a nickel. And what I was going to do is I was going to the bank to get a roll of nickels on the ridiculous concept that I would be able to find a nickel, a silver nickel, to show my wife. Well, I got 20 yards out of the house, and I found this lying on the ground. I took a picture of it. I just couldn't believe that there it was. I said, well, that's a nice omen. That's pretty cool. I've never left the house looking for something. I mean, I should have been looking for $1 million instead of a silver nickel, but there it was. I get to the bank. I get 2 rolls of nickels. I come home and open them up. I've tried this since. They're not in circulation. And this is what I found. I did find this silver nickel. This isn't one left over from my grandmother. I have no idea where these are. I've lost these too. But the point is, in one day I actually found 2 of these silver nickels, one on the ground and then 1 in a roll in circulation from the local bank. And there it is, the silver nickel. Now, why am I talking about these silver nickels and all this, and manganese and copper and silver? Well, that's because that is what this coin is made out of. And the interesting thing about these coins, you can buy them for the spot price of silver. So a 35% silver war nickel has in it 35% silver, 56% copper, 9% manganese. Now, according to Coinflation, at a silver price of $15.34, 35% silver, they give you the copper price, $2.91 a ton, 56%, the manganese price, $1,940 a ton, 9% a 5-gram coin, which is what the nickel is. The silver value in one of those nickels today, at the very low price of $15, and remember these are thick coins, $15.34, is 86 to 87 cents a nickel in these silver coins. Now that's pretty good, but there's also in those coins another 2 cents worth of copper and manganese. So the coins are worth almost 89 cents. Now you can buy these. This is the interesting thing. You can buy these on APMEX and other places for pretty much the spot price of silver. And in fact, if you add in the copper and the manganese, they're giving them away. Now, I don't understand why people don't buy them. I want to get your thoughts. But so, for example, if you go to APMEX right now, they will sell you $1 face value worth of nickels, which is 20 nickels, for $17.37. And they say any quantity that's just 1 cent per ounce over spot. But when you add in the other 2 metals value, you're actually getting them for under the price of the total metallic value. Now, when I first discovered this a few years ago, it was around the time I found the coin on the ground. I found out that the reason that these things are so cheap is that it's difficult. They can be melted down. There's no issue. You can melt them, and you can separate the silver and the copper and the manganese. It's that the manganese makes them harder. It's more expensive, so you don't get the premium. However, I still think it's a surprising buy that you can buy these, and no one does. They don't sell. Right now, if you go to APMEX, there's 1,823 of these rolls, and they're not on the list. If you remember when we talked to James Henry Anderson at SD Bullion, he listed the top 10 silver products. They don't even carry these. I looked on SD Bullion. Most Golden Eagle Coin carries them. Money Metals Exchange doesn't carry them. Most places don't even carry them. And looks like APMEX carries them. As I mentioned, Golden Eagle Coin carries them. But they're not very popular. I'm not quite sure why. Yes, they're hard to melt down, but I would imagine if the price of silver or copper rose, or manganese, that they would be a good price. So I don't know what you guys think. I'm intrigued by them. I'm more interested in the history of these things. I don't buy coins on the expectation they're going to go higher, because you have to stack them and store them. But the idea of nickels, it seems to me at these prices, you're paying the metallic value. Any other coin that you buy, even if you buy junk silver or silver rounds, you're always paying a premium. With this, you're getting the coin itself, and it has 100. You're paying for the exact metallic value of the coin, the silver, the copper, and the manganese. And I don't know. I think they're probably a decent buy. I want to know what you guys think. Let's see what you guys are saying over in the comments here. All right. Let's see. Roger Henley. I love the title of this live stream. To get silver below spot. Find a moron loaded the truck, and now he wants to feed his family. And yeah, well, that's not the case. These coins here. And I'm not selling them. They're not even affiliate coins or anything. And there's no special on them. They just exist, and no one really wants them. I mean, that's why they sell for the price. So I mean, the metallic value is what you can pay for them. you're paying spot price of silver, plus you get the free copper and manganese in there as well. Pablo Pina, anyone catch the interview with Smaulgld Silver Fortune yet? Yeah. You know, that's on. You can watch it over at Silver Fortune, but you can also watch it over on BitChute. I do like to send people over to the BitChute channel. You never know what's going to happen to this Smaulgld YouTube or anyone else's YouTube. You never know what's going to happen to BitChute either. I mean, they can go out of business. Just like, you know, I had a pretty big audience on VidMe. I built that up to a few hundred and then went out of business. Now, Real Video is restricting the number of videos I can put up, so I'm not going to bother with that anymore. And not because they're against me, it's because they're only allowing you to post more than 100 or 50 videos depending on your view count. And obviously, I don't have thousands of views, so that's not going to work out. But BitChute, here's the link there. You can go over to BitChute and check out the latest. I did put up the Smaulgld Silver Fortune YouTube, the interview that we had together. All right. Canada has nickel mining. They supply my company. They have nickel mining, but they're not in the top 10. That's interesting. Maybe there's just enough. I don't know. Nickel you need in large amounts, though, for... All right. Carl Joseph DeMarco, manganese is used in a lot of lightweight alloys from bicycles to backpacks of defense projects. That's right. Roger Henley, yes, I listened to the interview. Matt sounded a little speechless at times after being schooled by Lewis. The thing is, when I talk to Matt, and he's used to... He's clearly intelligent, clearly understands the flaws in that the world doesn't revolve around silver, but he kind of talks about it that way all the time, and then his listeners think that way too. And I have, you know, there's a lot of people out there that think that silver is somewhat the second coming. They don't understand why the last 10 years it hasn't risen. They believe the JP Morgan story that they have hundreds of millions of ounces of silver with no proof whatsoever. They believe the COMEX is going to default. Banks are evil. They believe all these things, and that only silver is their savior, and they believe the gold-silver ratio should be 1-to-1. Silver is rarer than gold. They have all these stories that the silver channels tell them, and they believe in it. And I'm not trying to bash silver. It's just that a lot of the stuff that they believe isn't even true. It's just they believe it, and they want to believe it, and they insist that it has to be true. And, you know, if you listen to this... And the problem is they hear at least a dozen channels repeat the same story. They're all consistent. Someone told me, oh, Lewis has got to go listen to Bill Holter and Bick Swear. I'm like, yeah, that's what I have to do. Then I'll really be woke. So Matt understands all this stuff, and we talk. We probably do this together every couple of months, and it's always but don't you? It's always this hopeful. Don't you think that there's just a lot of debt, and that at some point, it's always at some point, and it's unsustainable, and that silver's going to go higher? Like, yeah, it could. But they really want to hear that. And, yeah, I wouldn't mind it. This silver nickel I have would be worth a lot more if it went higher. But, I don't know. I can't believe in silver, and I don't believe in gold or Bitcoin. I don't believe in them in the same way that you would have a faith in something. So, all right. I'll watch it later. Was commented on the Manchego 64 of the silver to gold ratio. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure Maneko, I haven't listened to it, but he's one of the, believers in silver and gold. In fact, we mentioned the exchange he and I had. Well, he didn't really exchange with me. I just commented to one of his comments. He was saying, I would take silver just even if the powers that be and the banksters don't take it. I think the assertion there was it is money, period. Even though the rest of the world doesn't use it as currency, I would take it. And then you get the whole, you go, we're behind you, that's right, silver against the banksters, that kind of, and that's, you can believe that if you want, but the amount of people that actually believe silver is money, period, and all that stuff, they don't influence the markets, because if the world believes silver was money, period, it wouldn't be $15 an ounce. And there's a reason for it. I just mentioned when we went through all this. Every country used to use hundreds of millions of ounces worth of silver to make coins. They don't do that anymore. Well, that's because governments are okay, but whether they're corrupt or not, they don't use it anymore. And I haven't seen people decide, well, screw their government, we're going to use silver anyway as a medium of exchange. There's no movement to do that. Well, they're going to put it on the blockchain, digitize it. Well, then it's not silver. Then it's some type of digital illusion of wealth, right? All right. Torre M. Schenkel just got 2.5 kilograms of silver for below spot again. Again. All right. ASMR people, yeah, I watched it too. Always funny listening to Lewis just school somebody. I don't think I would. Matt wasn't being schooled. He knows all this stuff. But Matt, it's funny. He even said at one point during the interview, he said to me, I got to do another video after this. I said, what, to apologize to everyone for having me on your Silver Fortune channel? Yeah. The Walking Liberties are beautiful coins. Yes, that's what I thought. Carl Joseph, when I saw them, my grandma had them. They remind me of my grandma. Those in the Liberty, the dimes, the Mercury dimes, because she had given me both of those. As I said, this coin you're looking at here didn't mean anything to me. It had a P on it. I didn't even notice it probably. People, that's right. Don't mess with Lewis. He's part of the mafia. LOL. Bat is on the run. Roger Henley says, Carl, I missed you the past couple of nights. I couldn't actually be here on time. Yeah, but Roger isn't normally here because he has to work in Australia feeding the koalas out of his Smaulgld knockoff counterfeit mug. Plastic, I might add. Roger Henley said, tell me, Lewis, where can I buy average house with a bag full of Mercury dimes? I'm still waiting for Mike Baloney's prophecy to come true. No, it wasn't the bag full of Mercury dimes. I think it was 500 ounces of silver. By the year 2015, you'd be able to buy a single-family home because it's going to be the greatest wealth transfer in history. Every few years, silver does an accounting. And people listen to, okay, I'm not mocking, people are it's good research. You can put it down. And at the time, it was a projection based on then available background information. He put it together. But when it doesn't happen, then you have to say either the background information may have been cherry-picked or maybe it's not as relevant as you once thought. You have to reconsider the hypothesis, reconsider this is common sense, the assumptions behind it. You don't just keep saying, well, it's just going to happen soon. No, maybe it's not going to happen. You have to consider. And if it didn't happen, why didn't it happen? That's all I was talking about pretty much with Matt the other day on that interview was if something doesn't happen that you expected to happen, you had to believe it was going to happen and it doesn't. You don't just keep insisting it's going to happen when it doesn't look like it's going to, like the gold-silver ratio. It's not heading towards 16 to 1, 15 to 1, 9 to 1, or 1 to 1. But there's still people out there insisting that it's going to, even though it's going the other way. Now, one day it may, but why didn't it during the 10-year period where they were insisting it was going down? They did not ever want to know the answer to that question because it might have shown that, well, maybe it's not going there. That's called bursting someone's bubble. You guys are talking about cryptos, XML. I don't have any of this stuff. All right. Yes, it's Sunday morning for me right now. It's the only time I can get in on the chat, says Roger. That's right. And I saw an interesting, there's a guy named, I wish I can remember his name. I don't know his name. He did a Litecoin. I can't think of his name. Anyway, I don't know anything about technical analysis other than Head and Shoulders, and I don't follow it. But this guy does, and he was talking about the halving, and he was showing these different charts. And he mentioned the 2005 period, and he showed in this video before the one he just did today that this is very similar in 2015 what's happening now, prior to a big run-up. And it mentioned how Litecoin went up first, but Bitcoin didn't. Then Bitcoin actually went down and then went up. Pretty big shot. And now he's saying that as we approach the halving in August, that the period of time in which they approach the halving 2015. Same thing happened. Bitcoin went up 50-day moving average, 200-day moving average, and then it went down like 70%, he said. So he's saying it could go to, not that by August it might not be well ahead where it is now, but it might retreat to 30, 35. Take that for what it's worth. I don't know. I believe that if you actually could do technical analysis, then you'd win every time and you could trade. I don't know how to do it. I'm just passing along what he's shown, and he seems to know what he's talking about. But I don't have his name, so take it for what it's worth. All right. What else do we have in the comments here? Jason says, throw me a bone by letting me know when to sell. Well, that guy, he actually sold his Litecoin on the basis that someone told him something, or he had a dream that it was going to 14, and I don't know, he sold it. I don't follow it. I just remember hearing that. So it's interesting. I don't know where any of this stuff is going. That was another, someone complained, it's La Plata Peak, I don't know what his name is. But he was saying that my analysis is not that useful because I only talk about what's happened and the present, and I don't talk about what's going to happen in the next 15 years. You show me who knows what's going to happen in the next 15 years. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But my point is that unless you really understand the history and you really understand the dynamic today, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. What happens is people are, they start with the idea that they know this is unsustainable. They just know, or I just got to believe silver's got to go higher. So once you have that stuck in your craw, then you can't hear anything else. So now that's a given, and that could be a faulty hypothesis. So now that we know what we know, which you don't, you're just insisting that you know that, what's going to happen 15 years from now? Because we know that's what's going to happen is this is unsustainable. And really what it's doing is it's confirming your hypothesis by assertion. Like, okay, so we can logically conclude if this is all unsustainable and gold and silver, what everyone wants when everything collapses, so 15 years from now, gold and silver will be higher. Therefore, stay the course, just buy gold and silver and stack and forget everything else. That's essentially the rationale to buy gold and silver. That you have to start with an assumption that everything is corrupt, everything is going downhill, nothing is sustainable. The only thing sustainable is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years. Gold is money, period. And then, therefore, you're supposed to buy it. And then, you're supposed to subscribe to newsletters that tell you it's going to happen because it's mathematically determined. It's mathematically certain that this is going to happen. Now, it may even be mathematically certain or probability-wise that things are going to collapse. That still doesn't mean gold and silver are going to go higher. What does that mean, go higher? Because if you really are against fiat currencies, go higher versus what? Anyway, let's see what else we have here. Fiona Whalen, I thought you weren't going to be here tonight. Here you are. Nowadays, nickel, dimes, and quarter are mainly Cunard, it's some 20% of nickel. Don't know what that means. But Fiona says, where is she? I do buy those silver nickels. Interesting. And Crypto Shrugged Author says, I have a large collection of war nickels. Pay 90 to 90%. Yeah, he pays even less than spot. I mean, APMEX is not known for having low prices. If APMEX is going to sell you these things at spot, then they're not desired. I don't know why, but I don't have any. I can't even find the one that I had. All right. He also pays 90 to 95% on 40% halves. It must have something to do with the fact that it's not all silver. Like those Kennedy half dollars, 65 to 69, they're in 40% silver. Well, there's still silver in there, but then the rest is copper and nickel. ASMR people, I think if the premium's on 90% or higher, you might see more war nickels sell. Yeah, 90% is only slightly above spot. Well, actually 90%, I was just looking over there. You pay like 99 cents, you pay like 79 cents, 59 cents, 49 cents over spot. But, and again, copper, you get copper with it too. It's not like copper is worthless. Copper's a decent metal. All right, what else do we have? If you let but gold stores and pawn shops know what you will pay, you will be surprised. They pay 70-80%, sell to you for 90%, make a nice cut. That is true. Fiona Whalen, Lewis, you're like me. I buy these coins because I'm intrigued for them, not by the gains. Yes, yes. That's what I will do. I will go out and buy a coin like this. But I didn't have to. I found it. But I got to find where they are. I like to have the piece of history. I really do enjoy the looks of these types of coins. Not so much this coin isn't that attractive, but it is interesting because it has that big P on it. Oh, and ASMR People was like the third largest AMR creator on VidMe. He too was there. It's too bad they went under. Yeah, it was a decent format. Have you tried the BitChute? Maybe industrial use will save us. Yeah, who knows? Fiona Williams, COMEX might default, but it doesn't mean silver will save the day. Fiona, COMEX is never going to default. I'll show you why. I've studied this, and let me show you. I mean, some have said it already has defaulted. No, if you know, people don't understand what COMEX is. It's not meant to be a place where you go and you buy silver, or you go and you buy gold, and they deliver it to you. No, you're betting on the price, and there's a delivery option. But I'm going to give you 4 reasons, and please let me know what you think of this. 4 reasons why COMEX won't default. I researched it. I'll give you all the reasons there. This COMEX default story has been, there's even a link in there to a video that shows, like, since 2000, the same characters trot this story out. Imminent collapse of COMEX. They stopped doing it because you kind of look foolish. Same with the JP Morgan has all this silver. They'll probably stop talking about that soon when they realize it's no impact. Same as the gold back yuan and silver shortage. All right. Pablo Pina, Lewis, this morning, the latest Monaco 64. Someone gave you kudos mentioning you on the interview I had with Silver Fortune. Well, that's always nice. I'm sure someone knocked me too. Pablo Pina, you think Bitcoin and Litecoin will benefit from QE? DW, got my Smaulgld mug in the mail today. Well, that's good to know. Lewis, people are trying to find the ways to protect purchasing power from the thin savers and get carried away by PM. Yeah, I mean, the idea of protecting your purchasing power through passive investing. I was thinking about this today. It's very hard to protect your purchasing power with passive investing. You need to be active. I'm no expert in this. I'm just saying that obviously you could protect your purchasing power by making more money. You could protect your purchasing power by investing in dynamic companies that actually produced dividends or higher gains, or even in buying speculative stocks that produce gains. The thing about gold and silver is they don't do anything, which is a good thing to a certain extent, but they can't get any better. So if you want something to increase, this is the Buffett argument, but he views that because gold and silver don't do anything, that's a negative, they don't pay dividends. Hold that thought, but he is right that if a company can, through innovation and making things better, can actually increase the value of the company 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-fold. That's a fact. The downside to that is, and this is where people get into, but it's unsustainable. Yeah, but if you can invest in a company for a 3 to 5 year growth cycle, you don't really care if it's not going to be around 20 years from now. I think that's a point people miss. Like, there's certain companies, like the East India Company, you would have invested in it at the time and made a lot of money. It doesn't exist anymore. You could have invested in Marlboro. That was a big deal probably in the 60s. Not worth much today. Blockbuster would have been a great, but it's unsustainable and it's going to go away. Well, but for 5 or 6 years, you could have made a fortune in Blockbusters. I think that's what I'm realizing when I, looking at the comments under Silver Fortune. A lot of people have it in their head that because something is unsustainable, it means it's imminently going to be ending. It's a bad way of looking at it, because gold and silver are hedges in that because they can't change, they can hold some value, which is good, but they can't improve. They cannot get better. They're already perfect. They can only wear down a bit, like this nickel you're looking at. Pablo Pini, the younger millennials have no clue of gold in today's educational system. That's right. That is true. They get credit in the mail, see the minimum pay and due date. Yep. So you think so too. I think Litecoin will go up and then drop, hope to sell at 70. Okay. It's a trading strategy. Young women even today don't wear real jewelry but brass baubles. That's true. And also, there's been a trend in the West. England started this, and UK with this 9-carat gold stuff. No one knows the difference. Now, for whatever reason, in India and parts of Thailand and Asia, they go for the 22, 24-carat gold stuff. Yep, some of this stuff costs exorbitant money. Yeah, well, they pay if we get paid for the design. All right. Database DNA. Haven't seen you in a while. How about some analysis on the student loan market? Do you see this as unsustainable? It is, but remember, that's anything that's government issued is more sustainable. All it means is that the people that owe the debt, the students, they're unsustainable. They can get screwed. They can't discharge the student loans in bankruptcy. That's like a rule. But then you're going to get some politician who will somehow come up with a way to forgive the debt, and the U.S. just writes it off and then just print up the money to make up the difference. Yeah, Iron Buck just print more. Cu means copper in the periodic table of elements. Yes, Co is cobalt. You guys are chemists here. Just stacked some silver myself. Haven't bought it since it was under 14. Says on Buck. Scotty O, I just can't get into war nickels. I do like to buy 90% though. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but that is true, Scotty O. Maybe you want to expand on that, why you don't like these war nickels. You're getting them at the spot price of silver. I mean, when someone sells you something for what it's worth, you think they're not making a profit. But as Crypto Shrugged author mentioned, they don't buy these things at spot. They pay less for spot, and then they sell them to you at spot. Nickel is made 85 copper, 15% nickel, I wanted to say. Oh, I thought it was 75.25. Okay. Maybe it's a buy. ASMR people. No, I've not tried BitChute. Maybe I'll look into it. Yeah. Crypto Shrugged off. I used to stack boxes of regular nickels when they were worth 6 cents. Yeah, now they're worth 4. Melt them down and make a pet rock. DB Stupid is here. Got some pre-33 today. I've always been intrigued with that. I've never gotten any, but the 33 gold is very interesting. Again, it's expensive. That's the reason. But it's interesting. They actually used to carry those gold coins around with them. I have the experience that prompted me to believe that anything can default. Although that's true. No, anything can default. But these things, they have all these stop play. They won't allow themselves to default. The government won't allow them to default. They're not going to okay. They can default through their own mismanagement. That's true. They're not going to default because someone's going to stand for delivery. That's the nonsense argument. You'll see it if you go to the article. There's also in that article, I think I did a video on it too, so you can listen along and goes through the whole thing. Rogers now, he's having a sale on his hyper classic Smaulgld mugs. Please let me know if you're interested. Unbelievable. You want to see what a hyper classic Smaulgld mug looks like? It is the cheesiest, cheapest thing. Although imitation is the sincerest form of mockery, right? But I'll show you what he's done. Roger has made a plastic Smaulgld mug. He's even done a video on it where he feeds small snacks to kangaroos out of his Smaulgld hyper classic mug. Some people like it. He's got one where he puts the QR code on the back, and you can use it as a wallet as well. But nothing. Look, before I even get to the Smaulgld hyper classic mug, what you need to understand is nothing is better than a Smaulgld mug. And these are classic designs. Look at that beer stein there. Mugs rule. Out of ceramic. You got to have ceramic mugs. You can't have this fake stuff. This plastic stuff that Roger Henley and the Eagles is interested in. Look at that. That's classic. That's just the beer steins. Then you get into the Smaulgld classic and super classic mugs. You get into a travel mug. I mean, look at that. That is just fine engineering. Keep your beverage nice and warm in there. I use that one every day. I have all of them. I definitely eat my own dog food. Speaking of eating your own dog food, I mean, we even have a Smaulgld pet bowl too. Here's your Smaulgld classic mug. That's just a very classic mug. We'll get to the Smaulgld hyper classic plastic Australian knockoff mugs in a couple of minutes, but I just want to show you. And dogs love them. I mean, they are wonderful pets of all sorts, like Smaulgld mugs. Here's Linda Morning Mayan with her cat. Look at that. Their Smaulgld super classic mug. Good story behind that. She has a book out about not buying anything you don't need this year, and she actually bought a mug, so shows that a Smaulgld mug is not a purchase, frivolous purchase. It is a necessity. Here's KV. Look at him. He keeps his silver coinage in a Smaulgld mug. That's a beautiful thing there. He's got there. You got some of those Walking Liberty halves that I was telling you about earlier. Well, we got cut off, but we're back. I was showing all the mugs. I don't know which the last mug you saw, but there is the Smaulgld espresso mug. I don't know if you saw Linda Morning Mayan. She had her mug there with her coffee. I showed, there she is again. I showed another mug with silver in it. I mean, these mugs are just the most valuable thing you can have. And if you don't see it, I guess you never will. Alright, let's get to Roger's cheap mug. You can put Mountain House in a mug. Look at that. Smaulgld classic and super classic mug. So many good mugs. Here. Pet bowls. Smaulgld pet bowls. Dogs love them. Dogs love the Smaulgld mugs. I always show Lucky, but there's other dog pictures we have too. Put cognac in a mug. There you go. Smaulgld mugs are the best. And that is why Roger has created the plastic knockoff mug. Look at that. Fresh, frosty mug there with beer in it. It's just so many uses for these small. Here it is. Well, here's your knockoff. A derisive laugh at that Smaulgld cryptocurrency, gold, silver. It's a nice attempt at counterfeiting, but does not have the classic look that one needs. I mean, he's got a couple of silver coins around, but I think if you put the silver in there, it would break that thing. But there you have it. That's what Roger's trying to pitch to you at the moment. I mean, look how nice it looks here. That is just inviting when you see something like that. All right. Well, I think we've had it for the evening. I do want to thank you for joining me tonight. And remember, if you haven't got your Smaulgld mugs, let me interest you in them because they are the best So we'll see you tomorrow night. We do this each and every night around this time. And tomorrow we'll go through some of the news that we haven't covered. There's some interesting stuff going on. And we'll get back into more analysis of the gold, silver, and crypto markets. In the meantime, have a good night. Let me see if there's any more questions. Database DNA, you still about minds.com. Are you still on the platform? Yes, I am. No one follows me there. I got like 32 followers the first couple of weeks. I post there every day. I look for people. No one, that's not taken off. The BitChute has a bit of a following. Scotty, I can buy 14K scrap gold jewelry for gold spot. The local coin shop plays under spot. That makes sense. Pablo Pena says, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would approve a Rogers mug. Headmaster Wartune needs a dog bowl. Well, you saw we have dog bowls. They're out there. So if you guys don't know, the best thing to do is you go to Smaulgld.com. You can figure everything out from there. Or I can give you the link to the, if you want to go and get the, I only ship from Smaulgld headquarters the classic and super classic mugs. If you're lucky, sometimes I put in a Smaulgld game changer eraser. Those I ship from here, but the other mugs, all the different types, you have to go to the Smaulgld. I'll leave you the link for that right now. The Smaulgld store, and let's see, that's in progress. I'm gonna I'll get you to the link. And there you can buy. They ship out. They're not as fast as I am. When I ship as a. When I ship, I'm trying to get you the link here. When I ship, it's priority mail, and I ship the next day. Unless you buy tonight, then you'll get it shipped on Sunday. But the Smaulgld store ships. I don't know if they ship every day, but. Can't seem to get you that link. There we go. Oh, I know where the link is. Hold on. I'll get you the link. Bear with me. It's always worth finding somebody the link who is interested in making a purchase. There you go. If you go to... This will take you to the beer mug. But from once you're there, you're good to go. Buck, anyone looking at Coco likes the bowl. He's got the bowl. All right. Yeah, JP Morgan is blocking my stream, trying to get that silver hoarding secret to the public. They don't want us to know how to get silver at spot price. They're preventing the masses from protecting themselves. All right, everyone. Have a good night.